It's called copy restore. Another name for it is value result. There are many, many names for this thing. Copy in, copy out. That's even a better name, but copy restore is what I'm going to use. Copy in, copy out means something is going to be copied into the function and something is going to be copied out of the function. So now I'm going to draw the picture of memory in here corresponding to this function. So again, you initialize x to 4 and y to 5. So basically what that means is we're back to the original setup, right? When x is 4 and y is 5, right? So we reinitialize everything. Now we call this one, we pass in y, and then we see what happens when you print it. So far, so good. Everybody clear on the setup? So the question is, what does this mechanism imply? What is this copy restore? Well, first of all, you should think of it as copy restore is kind of a combination of by value and by reference. So it does both. So what that means is that when you evaluate x and y, you're going to evaluate it for both. So you're going to take x, you're going to get both its value and its reference. So you're going to pass two things in, basically, the value of x and the reference of x. And similarly for y. So why would you want to pass both? Well, here is how copy restore works. First of all, it has two local variables, a and b. So clearly, we are going to have the same picture here. So we do have an a, and a b, right? Because after all, we have those two parameters. But we're going to have two shadow variables. We're going to have a copy or shadow of each one of these. And because they are just shadows or copies, I'm going to call this copy A and copy B. Now, I should really emphasize that this mechanism, copy restore, does not exist in C++. You cannot do copy restore in C++. So what I'm doing is I'm simulating it, right? I'm saying if it existed, here is how you would implement it in C++, but it really doesn't exist. So when I say by copy restore here, I'm not saying that C++ does that. I'm saying I'm going to simulate it. And the way you can tell I'm simulating it is because notice there's way more statements in here than in here. That's because I'm adding statements to simulate what this thing does. Really, the body of the function, which is assign B to A and assign 6 to B, is really this part here. Right? This is the real body of the function, too, so it does the same thing as this. But because C++ does not implement copy restore, I had to add extra things before and after to simulate it. Everybody clear on that? So this code here that I'm showing is the way you would simulate copy restore in C++. And because it's called copy restore, there are two phases. There's a copy phase over here, and there is a restore phase over here that we have to do before and after the actual body. I haven't explained exactly what it does yet, but I'm trying to show you the structure of it so you understand why the code here is longer than this one. It does the same thing as this, but it does extra things. And I have to, in a real language, these things would be done under the hood for you. The copy and restore would be done, implemented by the compiler or the interpreter. But here you have to put it in the source code because C++ doesn't know anything about copy restore. It is still an eager or an applicative order mechanism. Why? Because you're still evaluating X and Y before you evaluate the function call. That's applicative order. But when you evaluate X and Y, you evaluate each of them twice, once for its value and once for its copy. So here is what happens now. Let me show you what happens. When you call this function, which implements copy restore, it will first evaluate X to get its address, and it will pass in the address of A. So the address of X, will be passed into A, and just like before, is going to point to this. But at the same time, it's going to evaluate X for its value. It's going to pass the value of X into the function. And that value will be stored in a shadow variable here. So this will also have the value 4 because that's what X has. So you both have the pointer to X or the reference to X and the value of X. That's what copy restore does. It does that for all the parameters because I did it for both. So B is going to be a pointer to y, and the copy b variable, we have the value 5. So you're just combining the first two, the pass by value and pass by reference. So you do that before you even execute the body. So that's why it's still applicative order. Now, because C++ doesn't do this, I'm going to simulate it by doing two things. First, I'm going to add this ampersand so that I can have copy the references just like I was doing here. And second, I'm going to locally define those two dummy variables, and I'm going to initialize them with the values of A and B. So everybody understand that this code right here is just to simulate the fact that we passed in both the reference and the value. So the yellow code here is really to simulate the first phase of the copy restore, which is called copy. So we're copying into the function not only the reference, but also the value. So it's called the copy in or copy phase. Okay, so now here is how copy restore works. Then it will just exactly execute the body of the function, except every time you were supposed to assign something or deal with A or B, you're going to just work with the copy of A and B. So that means when you assign a copy B to copy A, you're going to assign this 5 to this variable, right? So this is what I call the body proper of the function, what it's supposed to do right here. So you're going to assign the copy B value to copy A variable and the 6 to copy B. So do you see that this looks like pass by value? Why? Because it's like when you assign something, you don't assign it to the original variable. You assign it to a copy, a local copy. So far, nothing has changed in the caller, right? That's the whole point of this. If everything goes well in the body, then we're going to go and say, look, now we're going to restore the values of the copy back into what they actually stand for, the original variable. So in the restore case, I'm going to assign the value of copy A back to whatever A points to. So in the restore stage, and I'm going to do that in a different color, like maybe a bright purple here. In this restore stage, I'm going to go ahead and say, look, I'm going to copy this value 5 that I got at the end back here. And then I'm going to do the same for B. So I'm going from left to right. I'm going to restore the values of those local parameters back to the argument. So the 6 is going to be assigned here, which means when you go back to the caller, what you print here is also 5 and 6, just like by reference. Okay, so this is how copy restore works. I'm going to stop here before I discuss why this is even a good idea. So basically what you should understand is that it basically does the same as by reference, right? It basically ends up modifying the argument. But the way it does it is in a weird way. It does it by first copying in the original values of this thing. So when you work in the body of the function, you work on a copy, so you don't modify anything outside. And only at the end, when you're done with the entire body, you say, okay, everything went fine, so I'm done. I can restore these values back to where they should have been, right? It's called copy out or restore. So this is why it's called copy restore. It's like call by reference, where you do a copy first and then a restore at the end. Before we think about why this is a good idea, everybody understand how it works. It's kind of extra work, right? It's twice as slow as those ones because it does both. Can you see an advantage to doing this? So we can already see the disadvantage, right, is that it's slower. It's slower than either one of those because you have to do both of them. And not only it's slower, but it uses more memory because on the stack, you have to have two variables for each parameter, the address and then the copy. So there must be a reason why this is useful, right? Because there's some overhead to doing that. Can anybody see a reason why someone would want to do this? Look at this example. So this is a Java example that completely made up, right? But you have a main method, it declares some variables, and then it's going to do some work on those variables, some assignments, some computation, whatever. And then it's going to compute this division, right? So numerator divided by denominator. And then it's going to do some more work, whatever, and then it's done. Now, everybody understand that this could generate an exception, right? If the denominator is 0 by the time you get here, this is going to throw an exception. And so it will throw an exception, and then the execution will jump to the catch block. And that means this will never get executed, right? Because once you throw an exception, you get out of the try block and you go here. And then you keep going if you handle the exception right. Let's assume in the body of that method here, you're doing a division that could throw an exception. Why is it a good idea to use copy restore? Look at this example here.
Because if you have to do error handling, you didn't want to actually modify what you were in the process of modifying, so it doesn't have any side effects then.
Exactly. Exactly right. Because this thing that you do before the division could have side effects. Like if you're passing this argument by reference, you may have actually modified some data in memory outside of this method, right? In fact, if this does a SQL or database queries, this may have modified some database records and so on. And then suddenly an exception is thrown, which means you get out of here and you go here, and you never had time to close your transactions and do something. Maybe you have to clean up your transaction, whatever. You never had time to do the other stuff, and suddenly your database is in an inconsistent state because you jumped out of here back here. Here is the advantage of copy restore, is that maybe everything you do here, you shouldn't do it on the original data. It's better to do it in a copy of the data temporarily, so that if an exception is thrown, you can roll back the transaction by just you don't even have to do anything, because all the work you did was just on a local copy. So you never have to go and fix whatever you were supposed to do afterwards. So it's really almost of a data integrity issue, or sometimes it could be a security issue as well. You don't want to make permanent changes over here until you're sure that you're going to get to the end of the function and that nothing will go wrong. But if something goes wrong in copy restore, right, if something crashes right here, you never get to do the copy, which is bad. You don't get to modify this, but it's good in the sense that if something went wrong here, these values are probably corrupted anyway, the initial work you did. So you don't want to reflect that on the outside world. So that's the main reason why copy restore. It's really a security and a data integrity issue which goes together, right? Does that make sense? So you might say, well, yeah, but there's a way around that, that maybe in my catch block here, I can do something like maybe I could copy this code over here. So even if I get here, I could still undo the work, right? Yeah, but that gets pretty tricky. So first of all, you would have to duplicate the code to make sure everything is cleaned up over here, or maybe in a finally block here, right? You would clean things up. But there's another problem is, this catch block could be in a different method from this one, right? And so this catch block may not know how to fix whatever was messed up over here. So for example, let's do an example in C++, just so you see, you don't have to memorize this, but in C++, you can do the same, right? You have a main function, it will call function 1. Function 1 can call function 2, then function 2 can call function 3, and then function 3 throws an exception. Where is the catch block? It's right here. So remember, when you throw an exception, it doesn't have to be handled right away. This function can throw an exception. And so it comes back here, and this one says, well, I don't know what to do with it, so I'm going to throw it back to this one. And this one says, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to throw it back here. So even though the exception happens in function 3, it's going to be handled way out there somewhere in the main. And so this function, at this point, you may not know where the exception comes from. So how do you fix whatever happened here before the exception was thrown? You can't. You just don't know. So everybody understand this would never be a problem if you had used copy restore, because in copy restore, whenever you throw an exception in the middle, whatever you did before actually is not reflected in the global program. So you actually never change anything. You don't have to undo anything. Now, of course, the price to pay is that you do have to do double your work at the beginning. At least you have to make copies, which is time consuming, and you have to allocate memory. But if you really need that in your system, so you have a safety critical system where you don't want an exception to actually make your data inconsistent, which could lead to errors later on, or even worse, loss of life if you're in a safety critical situation, right? So what language uses this feature? I know of one, there might be more, but this copy restore was created especially or implemented in the language called Ada. And if you don't know about it, don't worry about it. But basically, this is a programming language that was ordered and designed for the US Department of Defense. So for all their safety critical software, whether it's military or otherwise, they don't want anything going wrong while they're operating some weapon or something, right? So a lot of their code is written in Ada, at least some of it. And this language uses copy restore for all safety critical code. All right, so that's the reason, or one of the main reasons why copy restore might be a good feature. If you're willing to slow your program down a little bit, at least it's going to be more secure.